Hey guys, Hawk here. I had a thought. Seems to be the new title of this, but I'm going to stick with what I have. I had a thought earlier yesterday actually, last night it occurred to me. I don't even remember what I was doing. I've recorded like 2 or 3 videos earlier this week, but I didn't really like how they came out. And I haven't really felt the motivation to edit them, so I'm just going to do this video. Last night I was looking up some stuff. Long story short, large format 3D printers. I'm talking like cubic meter kind of stuff. I was looking at those, and it occurred to me if I had one of those in this shop, I could potentially prototype out large, I guess they would be small machines, like CNC machines, stuff like that. I could print out whole pieces that would be cast in iron or just machined out of metal, entire bodies of machines all at once. And then I could get the rails cheap from China. I can get the ball screws cheap from China. They're not the best quality, but at some point, I just want to prototype something out and make sure that I can do it. And at that point, it might actually be obtainable, because I'm no longer machining all of these housings and stuff where I need to outsource that potentially, or get someone else to do it, or maybe get a machine, or blah, blah, blah. There's so many logistics in working with metal. And if I take out that one element, I'm no longer working with metal. Well, that changes things. I won't be able to machine anything on those things, obviously, but my point is I can iterate and reiterate and make sure that my designs are working the way I want and do it for relatively cheap. The only problem is those large format professional printers are like $10,000 plus. So there's a bit of a wall there. I could build one, which, to be honest, if I want one, realistically, that's probably what I'm going to have to do, which would also have a plus of building some sort of linear motion machine in 3-axis. So, a 3D printer is just a CNC machine, but less complicated. Doesn't have to be as rigid. There isn't nearly any significantly loads on a 3D printer compared to a CNC machine. And it's going to be way cheaper to build than a CNC machine. So maybe it would be a good stepping stone. I could custom make one to the dimensions that I want. I'm thinking more of a long one. I don't know. I have a surface plate over here. I believe that's 600 by 900 millimeters. That's 2 feet by 3 feet. So that's kind of the limits of the ways that I can scrape realistically on my own. I think I could get away with like 4 feet or something like that, and maybe like go at an angle. And there's a few different things that I could do where I think I could get a little bit bigger than that. But that's basically what I'm working with. And that's pretty much where I want to be. It would probably double. If anything, I might double the length. But for what I'm doing, that surface area could probably cover a little bit of overlap and stuff like that. It doesn't have to be perfect is what I'm saying. And that table is way more accurate than I'm going to be able to get. So that's a lot of work, but it's towards a goal. So what is that goal? I am more of a detail-oriented person, so it's hard for me to kind of see the big picture and get long-term big goals in mind, keep them in mind. So I still know that I need to zoom out even more, but I feel like I've zoomed out a little bit, and what I want my long-term goal to be is I want to open up manufacturing to the home garage, to the home shop. I want normal people to be able to afford CNC machines. The only problem is they're already out there. Home CNC machines exist. A top-of-the-line Tormach is like $40,000. I know some machines where the bar feeder is $40,000. So The only problem is I still see Tormach as a bit of a toy. At least their lower end stuff, they have an MX series, which is supposedly better, but I haven't seen cuts on those. I'm not going to pretend to know what those machines are capable of, but I've always seen Tormachs as toys. They can't really hold. You can make stuff with them. You can kind of get tolerances, but the second you need repeatability, tight tolerances, that's completely out the window. So for a production, you're going to be struggling. It's an uphill battle for sure. It's not ideal. I'll leave it at that. So I want to make real machines. I want to make production machines. I want to make machines that make people money so that they can fund what they want to do. I should not be saying this out loud in a video, but a Swiss CNC machine has never been done for the garage. And that's asinine. I can't believe that's never been done before. It's as close to printing money as you can get. Let's just put it that way. If you have the parts that are able to run on a Swiss machine, once you get it set up, it's literally printing money. Like, we're talking leave that thing running and go do other things in the other room. It takes a little more skill to operate. It takes a little bit more know-how. But I'm sure there are people out there that want them. I'm sure there are people out there that have Swiss machines in their garage already. It's just not really meant for that environment. We'll talk about that in a second. But, I mean, Swiss machines are already pretty small. I could actually probably fit a Swiss machine in here if I really wanted to. It might take up half the garage, but I'm pretty sure I could actually fit one in here. Going back to, I want to make other machines too before I move on. I want to make other machines too, not just CNC machines, but also injection molding machines. Again, there have been some short runs of injection molders, like desktop ones and stuff like that. There are ways to injection mold on the cheap. You can do almost everything by hand, basically. Like literally press the plastic into your molds and stuff. I get that. But again, I'm talking more of bringing an industrial machine into a garage. That's going to need like... That's very complicated. So going into the environment. The garage is a significantly different environment than a machine shop. Let's go over some of them. Off the top of my head is being flooded with 1,000 things, but off the top of my head, number one is the foundation. The foundation isn't nearly as thick. We have a neighbor who works out and he deadlifts, and when he drops the weights, they hit the floor. He says he has padding, but I can feel the reverberation in my house, and it's next door. That brings up a few problems. Mainly vibrations, which brings up another problem that I'll talk about next. But there's only so much weight that these floors can actually handle. And that's a huge issue because the only real way to make a machine rigid is weight. Mass. Pure, unadulterated mass. There is no other options. So that's a factor. Another factor is noise. You're going to probably want to soundproof some things depending on what you're doing. It can get loud, and if your neighbors start getting annoyed by it, that could put you out of business. So it might actually be worth figuring out how to soundproof this entire wall. All the rest of the walls too, but I think that's a big one. It helps that it's insulated, I think, but you can still hear me talking if you're outside. At this volume, if you're standing in my driveway, you can hear me. So, yeah, sound needs to be addressed. Power. There's no three-phase power in residential homes. You have to have three-phase power to power a CNC machine. I don't know about the rest of them, but for a CNC machine, you have to do it. That might be controversial. Basically, the difference between single-phase and three-phase is you're turning the motor on, With 3-phase, it's on the entire time. That's, in layman's terms, as quick as I could explain that, but basically it's a lot more power. It's significantly more power. Even if the only option that you really have is to take your 240 volts single phase, put it into a converter, and then it will output 3-phase 240. It's not as powerful as real 3-phase. I think the rule of thumb is like 2/3 the power. So if you have a 1 horsepower motor on 3-phase and you hook it up to this, it's going to be 2/3 horsepower. That means something a little bit different when it's 3-phase and machining, because I'm not going to get into it, but trust me, it means something. I would rather have a 1 horsepower 3-phase than a 3 horsepower single phase. That's just me. Personal thing. Haven't done enough research to say, quote me on that, but I think that's where it's at. So power is an issue. Space is an issue. You have a physical height on your ceiling. 8 feet is not very much, and you have to have probably 7 feet max. I would say 6.5 to be safe, of room to get it into your garage. So it has to it has to get in the garage, and then it has to fit in the garage. And most CNC machines are more than 8 feet tall. Let's just put it that way. Actual space, actual floor space, that's a thing. You can only have so many machines in your shop. There's a lot of restrictions to a CNC machine, to a workshop, to a industrial environment being in a garage environment. There's a lot of restrictions. But I think it's doable. I have some ideas. That I don't think industry has done before, let alone be in a garage. There are a lot of hurdles. There's designing the machine. I've never designed one of these machines before. There's actually making it. I've never made one of these machines before. There are major cost issues with this build, for sure. I think that's the biggest hurdle, is just the pure cost. The spindle is probably the biggest cost. I would like to one day have a custom spindle, mainly because I feel like that kind of spindle hasn't been made before. You want something really beefy, very rigid, very compact. So it's going to have to be a custom motor, basically a servo motor with a spindle attached to it all in one. So like the shaft is like this diameter. Instead of having like a 3/4 inch shaft for a big old motor, like you're literally gonna have a shaft like this. That's a hollow tube. And then you can actually make it like the size of your torso or even less or something like that. And you can actually get a decently powerful spindle. But the problem is, to get a spindle like that is literally $50,000 minimum. $50,000. That's what I'm saying. That like these things are built in clean rooms. These things are balanced beyond belief. These things can reach 20, 30,000 RPM like it's nothing, and still have the torque all the way through. That's kind of the difference there. I've heard from one source. It's kind of hard to do research in spindles. It's kind of hard to do research in like brushless motor kind of things when I don't know that much about it. But from what I hear, it's actually wound with 2 different types of winding. And so it can seamlessly transfer from a low speed, high torque to a high speed, high torque. Because you can't have both in one motor. You can't have high speed, low speed, and torque across the board. From what I understand, physics won't allow it. Spindles you can get from China, from Taobao and stuff, but they're all high speed really high speed motors, and they only have torque on the higher end of things. We're talking 10, 15, 20, 24,000 RPM spindles. And you only really start getting torque at around like 12, 15,000 RPM. That's fast. That is way too fast. That is significantly too fast. That thing is going to have to be booking. And the problem when you're moving this fast is how much is that weighing? Because if you have 1,000 pounds doing this, that machine's flying all over the place. It's not a thing. So in order to have a bigger, heavier machine, you need your stuff to move slower, and you need the spindle speed to be slower. Otherwise, you're just going to burn up stuff. Heat. That's just the spindle. That's just the spindle. This is such a huge project. Just building a CNC machine, let alone a Swiss machine, let alone an injection molding machine. I have a lot of ideas, and I have no means of executing any one of them. And that's frustrating. I'm sitting here in a relatively hot space. It's not hot, but it's not comfortable. And it's getting more uncomfortable by the day. And I just know when summer hits, this is going to be hell to be in here. And I'm not going to want to be in here. So these vlogs are probably going to move inside into my room. I need to clean the crap out of that because I have way too much stuff in there. It needs to come out here. I need to build some stuff for this. I want to change the way people make things. I would like to one day be able to make a program that does all this stuff for you. Maybe it's AI powered. I don't know anything about that stuff. So that anybody can design a part and then machine it to make it out of something that they couldn't have made it before. To inspire people because they can, to make things because you can. What would somebody do if they had a CNC machine where they could make anything out of metal? What would you make out of metal? If you could make something out of metal, what would you make? Would it be for a Nerf blaster? Would it be a stool? If you were to try to make this stool out of one solid piece of aluminum, like try to machine it, there are machines that can do that. But that needs to be made on like a $500,000 machine. And that is going to cost a ridiculous amount of money. It would probably be $5,000 or $10,000 to machine a chair like this. $5,000 or $10,000 to machine a chair like that out of aluminum. Can you believe that? And guess what? People do that. Not the actual chair. Titans of CNC. They machine random crap like that for videos. I know a bunch of people all the people who make those kinds of machines always have at least one sort of video where they're machining, like you've probably seen the basketball hoop being machined. And it's like inside there. And it's to show off what the machine can do. You can make anything with this machine kind of thing. 5 axes. You have to have videos like that because the machine costs $750,000. And companies don't want to invest in that. They would rather invest in cheaper machines, more cheaper machines, and people to run them and just flip your part 15 ways to Sunday in 16 different operations because that's what makes the most money. But it's only what makes the most money if you have unlimited labor, which means basically unlimited funds. But what if you're like me and you're a one-man show? Well, a 5-axis machine is your dream. If you had a 5-axis machine in here that could make any part this big out of aluminum, what could you make with that? That's a big part, by the way. This, for a 5-axis machine, is a good sized part, especially if you're looking for anything affordable. That's a huge hole. That's probably the first hole that I would try to fill in a public market. There are no cheap 5-axis machines. period. There is one that was called the Pocket NC, 2 words. And it was like $5,000 when it started. I think it's like $7,000 now if you look it up. And it's literally like a plate this big and a spindle this big. And the whole machine is like this big. The whole machine literally fits in a square like this. It's a toy. It literally has like a Dremel on the side of it. It's a toy. No tolerance. You can't hold any tolerances at all. No repeatability. You can make something that resembles the thing that you're trying to make. It will not be the thing you're trying to make. You would literally have more accuracy with the 3D printer kind of thing. It's a toy. And it's $5,000. $5,000. For me, that's a tool. Well, but like that's how much money these things produce. That's how much money these machines make. And you can say that it's any step along the way. You can outsource machine parts, spend a couple $100, have all the parts, assemble them, and then just be that part of the assembly and ship it out, and you've made a profit. As long as you're the one who's actually the end person, the one who came up with the idea and is actually implementing it. But you have to have money first. You have to have money to start this kind of thing. Or you have to have a really good idea, a patentable idea, something that you can protect on your way up the ladder, so that when you take out a business loan of $250,000, you're not screwing yourself. You have to have a plan. I need to come up with a plan. I need to come up with a plan. I'm sorry, I totally forgot about the video for like 30 seconds there. I don't think you guys are going to get the short video anytime soon. It's going to be really hard to condense this into 20-minute videos. Really sorry about the angle. I need to get a selfie stick. I just need to get one or make one or something. I have no idea where that water came from. It's okay. I wouldn't keep it out here if it wasn't drinkable. That's a lie. I actually had a water bottle over there that was full of soap. I threw it away. I hope. So I guess I need a plan. Sorry you guys really don't have anything interesting to look at. I need to get better. It's going to be a different type of video, man. I'm sorry. This kind of, there's no way in hell I could ever edit these kind of videos. They're just going to be raw videos. Maybe one day if I get a Patreon and I get 1 million subscribers, then these will go to the Patreon and you can hear me ramble there. And then like I'll actually make edited videos, quality content for my YouTube channel. But I mean, I have like 50 of you people watching at this point, so like who cares? And that's who even clicks on the videos. I actually have like, I think it's like 10 maybe people that actually like, it's like between 10 and 15 people I think that like actually are watching these videos all the way through. And that means a lot. I really appreciate that. I'm still thinking about it like an Xbox party. I grew up on Xbox, and you'd have like 8 people in a party max, and that was like a really full lobby. Oh god, ones where you'd get 16 people in Halo. Forget that. That was too many. There's 15 of you. There's 15 of you guys watching right now. I think it would almost not matter how long I made this video. It would have to be ridiculous, like an hour. And I still think there are some of you that would watch it. I had 4 or 5 people watch me every single minute of the 117 hours that I streamed for Glass Construct. 4 or 5 people every single minute. I would start the stream And then not 5 seconds later, someone would be in there. Usually Trico. That was so fun. And all I did was sand. I literally sanded for that entire time. I think there were a few times when I whipped out the Dremel, and I was like, oh, he's whipping out the Dremel. But like, most of it was by hand. I really appreciate that. I think these videos are helping my mood. I think they're helping my mood swings. I think these videos are helping. And whether I lose subscribers from this or have a million, I'm always going to remember these times when I was kind of at my lowest in my life and I just walked through my garage and talked to the camera for 30 minutes at a time. This is probably too heavy to put on YouTube. Because I don't want the attention. I don't want the attention for that. I don't want to. I know it's going to happen in the Nerf community, but like it's going to be like, oh, did you see that one video where Ben was talking about his mental illnesses? I knew I didn't like that guy. I know none of you are thinking that, but it's hard to put yourself out there. You know, you just got to trust that people will not judge you on your worst day. I would never want to be judged on my worst day. So I try not to judge others on theirs. That's something I definitely learned in this community, for sure. I've been in here for 10 years. Can you believe that? 10 years this year. My first mod was 10 years ago. Man, I love this hobby. There's so many avenues to it. There are so many things that you can do with a Nerf blaster. You can just like it for shooting it. You can be one of the guys who just wants to be in the war and just wants to shoot his friend. There are subcategories of that where you're just having fun. You like the terrible blasters. There are competitive people. There's an entire nation of people who just play competitive. Those guys over in Singapore, those guys are competitive, man. Like literally paintball level stuff. And that's just one part of the hobby. You could be more towards the engineer stuff. You could like modding stuff. I could literally go on about this forever, for 10 years about. And I know my wife thinks I'm crazy for coming back to this hobby, but I just really love it. And I'm not sure why. Maybe it's the people. I'm going to end this video because we just hit 30 minutes. Thank you guys very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. I really don't care about that, but it might help fund these projects. That would be a product of me doing this, though, and I need to remember that. And I need you guys to keep me on top of that. I need to be held accountable. I want to enjoy the journey, not the destination. I listened to an audiobook recently. This is the last thing, and I'll let you guys go. Audiobook, not sponsored. Audible, hit me up. I listened to I got one of the trials or whatever. It was like 3 months for $1 a month, and you got 3 books. So one of them that I got was The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***. That was a really, really, really good listen. And I think you guys should get it. If you can get a free trial on Audible, don't just go directly to their website. Please go to your favorite YouTube video, your favorite YouTuber, see if they have an Audible code or something, and then use their code, because they do actually get kickbacks and stuff from that. So I know like Quarter Crew and stuff have one, whatever. I'd probably sponsor them. So, or I mean, I would go through them. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. This one might be a little bit of a hard one to put out there, but I got to commit. And this is definitely the best video that I made this week. Sorry for the long one. See you guys in the next one.